Hello, my name is Christina Malcolm and I'm going to show you how to transfer PNP paper onto sterling silver using a glass top convection range today. So the tools in front of me, I've got a burnisher, pair of scissors, my silver, a wedge from a ring clamp, and my PNP paper, and then a piece of 400 grit sandpaper. So before we really get started here, I need to get my range heating up, and I'm going to put it on the second to lowest setting. And for me, I have off, low, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put it at the 1 setting because it is the one up from the low setting. We're heading to about 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And while that's heating up, I'm going to start cleaning my sterling with my sandpaper. I need to get a nice even finish. I want to make sure that the oils from my fingers don't transfer anymore. So from here on out, I want to make sure not to touch that surface that I'm working on. And then once that is nice and clean, I just need to lay it down right onto the burner without touching it. Okay, I'm going to let that come up to temperature while I cut out my PNP paper. I'm going to cut out around my image, pretty tight up to the image. Okay. So these are some trees. You can see that the image is printed on the matte side of the PNP paper. Personally, I made my design in Photoshop, printed it out, took it to Kinko's, and then transferred the print onto the PNP paper. So I think my silver is warm enough now. So I need to flip my image over and get the black onto the surface of the silver. Okay, you can see that I started in the middle and kind of applied it down. Similar to applying a decal, we need to be really careful not to trap out air bubbles, which is what I have the wedge for. I'm going to try to smooth all of my air bubbles out here. And remember, it's hot. So at one time we're smoothing the air bubbles out, but we're also burnishing the image onto the surface of our sterling. One thing that my students usually say about this process is they didn't understand how hard and how much they had to burnish. Alright, I'm going to try really hard to look across the surface sheen of the glossy part of the PNP paper. If I can catch the sheen just right, I can see the bubbles under the surface. Alright, now I feel like I've got all the bubbles out. Now I'm going to go back with my burnisher and actually burnish the edges of the image. So what I'm going in and around and kind of outlining the piece with my burnisher. Make sure it all gets transferred. And this is the trunk area down here, so I'm just going to go kind of straight up and down on the trunks to make sure they're transferred. My weak points are usually the corners, so I try to go back and like triple check my corners. All right. So before I let this cool down, I'm going to try to lift up a corner to see if the transfer held. You can see this corner is already starting to lift up over here, so I just am very carefully, without touching anything, I'm going to try to lift that up. Looks like a decent transfer. I'm going to turn off my burner. And remove the piece from the heat source. And remove the glossy part of the PNP paper. That looks like a good transfer. I have a couple bubbles, but I think that I'll be alright with that. You can see from what's left of the PNP paper where I had bubbles under the surface, you see little black dots, but the rest of it is completely transparent. Being careful not to touch, because next it's going in the bath. But there are my trees. If there are any bubble spots that I'm really upset about, I can go back with some fingernail polish and dot it down into that area. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. More soon.